Thank you, Senator Linehan. It is kind of poetic justice that we're in a rules debate right now, and she brings up a point of order. Now, I will go back and say that this motion is debatable and amendable since the beginning of time, and in fact, I did this 4 years ago with Governor Ricketts then, and talked for 15 minutes while I was over there. So I have a history of that. But it's just funny to me because I've told everybody, rules don't need to be suspended, rules don't need to be changed. It takes 25 votes. And this is a prime example of how it works. Anything on this floor, you can make a point of order and say that is out of line, Chair, and the Chair can say it's in line or it's not. Or I think this is non-debatable. The Chair can say it's incorrect or not. And every time a Chair says that, you can raise your hand and say, I move to overrule the Chair, no matter what the rule says. That's why our rules are what they are. You think you have to have 30? No, just get 25 votes on the floor and overrule the Chair. So I still will see, I can see the writing on the wall that there's 25 people who don't want to do this, and I think Senator Linehan's point of the people in the balcony and having respect for them is correct. I also think it's not this body's fault for actually trying to have a conversation and push the administration forward. It's the administration's fault. But this is debatable and this is amendable, and history shows so. So we can take a vote, and present not voting doesn't mean that you're voting for me or against the Chair. I'm the one who has to produce 25, and on a good day I'll get 12 on this vote. Maybe 13 for a couple people who are symptomatic. Look, Hansen might just give me 1 vote. So this is the smartest thing that's been done all day. We're following the rules and we're making some things happen. But this is debatable and this is amendable. And so I would ask for a green vote on overruling the Chair.
Thank you, Senator Wayne. Senator Michaela Cavanaugh, you are recognized to speak.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate Senator Linehan's words and her desire to honor the people that are here. I very much think that she's quite the stateswoman and has the best intentions and integrity of this institution at heart, and I thank her for that. I do oppose ending the debate on this because I do think that it is debatable and amendable, and I think that if we don't allow ourselves the flexibility to debate what we ourselves are doing, then we, again, like Senator Wayne said, discussing the rules, we are just restricting our own voices. So while I respect Senator Linehan's intention here, I am going to politely stand in opposition to that. And as this might, depending on how the vote goes, be my last time to speak before the governor comes in and speaks, I want to talk about some of the other issues that I have concerns about, specifically around government oversight. So I talked about responsiveness to records requests, and I have come to realize that this administration is purposefully, intentionally skirting our ability to provide transparency, not just with the OIG, not just with denying records requests, but also with how they are conducting their day-to-day business. And I do believe that this legislature may need to take action and change our statute around what is acceptable in records requests, because now things are being handled in our departments in draft form. Because if something is in draft form and we request it, they don't have to give it to us. So as long as everything remains in draft form, we can never get access to those records. Additionally, the issues that Senator Wayne and Senator McKinney have been talking about, this is because we are taking our taxpayer dollars and we are giving them over to the hands of private citizens who are not subject to our open records requests and who are not subject to our open meetings laws. We need to fix this. These are taxpayer dollars, and they are honestly being wasted because they're being put in hands of people who are taking a massive cut off the top, whether it is a private corporation or even the nonprofit organizations that we are contracting with. They are taking an administrative cut off of the top before they do anything. But we can't afford $300,000 to feed children this summer, because we want them to be seen in person, even though they're not going to be seen in person. They're just going to be hungry. What are we doing in this state? We are actively harming children with our obstinance. Your philosophical debate over EBT or SNAP or any of the programs that provide services and financial support to children are irrelevant. You are hurting children. Full stop, period. And taking TANF dollars that could go into the hands of families to pay their electric bills, to pay their water bills, to have clean water, to have heat during these epic cold months, but instead you're giving them to the United Way and the Nebraska Children's Family Foundation so that they can take a cut off the top. Millions and millions of dollars are going to nonprofit organizations who take a cut off of the top, and then that money trickles down eventually, sometime maybe, into a program that these families can go to that still doesn't feed their kids or keep the heat on. And these are the poorest of the poor people in Nebraska. And we are putting that money into the pocket of nonprofit administrators instead of in the pocket of the families that need it the most. Because we can't trust poor people. We can't trust people of color. We can't trust them to manage their own families, to take care of their children. We penalize them. We systematize poverty. We make it a full-time job. And then we do it under the guise of, well, we need to have eyes on those kids in the summertime, and if we do this, then they'll get fed, but we won't see them. Heavens to Betsy. We're not going to see them anyway, so let's feed them. Let's feed these kids.
That's your time, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Kavanaugh. Senator McKinney, you're recognized to speak.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I'll continue on. So after we finished session last year, the governor's office and the Department of Punitive Services decided on the location of the prison that you guys decided to build, even though it's going to be overcrowded day one, and they still want to keep NSP open. There was outrage in Lincoln. We can't have a prison in our community. And then you know what happened? They found a new location. But when there's outrage in our community about this program that the Department of Exclusion and Dropping the Ball put out, no adjustments, no response to the community. We're just going to do what we want to do because we can, which is very sad. And that's why Senator Wayne stood up. That's why I'm standing up, because of the disrespect to our community. It's been disrespect my whole lifetime. And I thought possibly, just maybe possibly, when this legislature dedicated those resources to economically develop and help North and South Omaha, that maybe possibly there's some hope in this state. But over this past interim, all that hope left. There is no hope. They don't care. They rather see communities like North and South Omaha stay impoverished, which is not good for anybody, not myself, not you, or the state. As long as we keep these communities economically impoverished, we'll have poor educational outcomes. Our prisons probably might stay overcrowded. We'll have a lot of homelessness, but people want to arrest people that are homeless. it's just a sad state of affairs for the state of Nebraska, and that's just true. And then we got the issues with the Department of Punitive Services not allowing the ombudsmen in when they were not included in the AG's report. But one thing I'm not sure the people of this body is aware of, in Article 4 of our Constitution, Section 19, state institutions, management control, and government determination by the legislature. The general management, control, and government of all state charitable, mental, reformatory, and penal institutions shall be vested as determined by the legislature. We are literally giving up our control by not forcing the Department of Punitive Services to allow the ombudsman back inside. It is against the Constitution, and people stand up and say they love this state and they love the Constitution and they swear by it, but we're violating it by not forcing them to allow the ombudsman in. And that is a problem. And it shows a lot of hypocrisy in this place, if I'm being honest. The Department of Exclusion and dropping the ball does not care about my community. And you know how I know this? Because when we initially started the economic recovery plan and talking to them, they said, oh, we've never considered economic development in North Omaha. We've never thought about it. Which is clear today. They don't care about economic development in Omaha. There's individuals that were literally picked as small, quick wins, which means they were supposedly guaranteed to get funding. But because they were a for-profit business, DED excluded them and offered them $50,000. And
1 minute.
And that is a fact. I know a business right now that should be receiving $1 million to help their business, but DED excluded them out of the rapid grants and only picked nonprofits, which I'm against, and they only offered them $50,000 when in the report and the request they were guaranteed $1 million. And why shouldn't I have a problem with that? Because they're not trying to help my community. They're just trying to bird feed us and hold us back. And that's just a fact. And that is the problem. And I'm not lying. I'm telling the truth. I have no reason to lie. So when people stand up and talk around y'all circles that we're lying, stop lying and tell the truth. Tell them how you're selling our community out. Tell that. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator McKinney. Senator Hunt, you're recognized to speak.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, Nebraskans. I think I'm enjoying the conversation this morning, and I think a couple things are true at the same time. I'm enjoying this conversation. I remember the hearing that Senator Wayne is talking about in Urban Affairs. I'm the Vice Chair of Urban Affairs, and I agree with what Senator Lowe said. It was probably one of the best hearings we've had in a really long time, because we got to take the focus of supporting entrepreneurship and innovation, supporting small business owners in underserved communities in Omaha, and give them this platform of this committee hearing to tell us what they're doing, to tell us what they would do with this funding. And what I've heard over the past day and this morning about how, you know, a lot of community leaders, the governor, different philanthropic folks in Omaha really fumbled the bag and dropped the ball by excluding Senator McKinney, by excluding a lot of the people who are already leaders in this space, and sort of falling into the same pattern that perpetuates the problems we do see in North Omaha and Midtown, where the folks who are already doing the work, who are already exhibiting leadership, who are already close to the ground and know what it is that the people they serve need, are pushed aside for moneyed interests, for power, for whiteness, frankly, to come in and say, we actually know what's best for you. I sort of fell off this interim too. I was not a part of any of these conversations. I haven't talked to Senator McKinney or Senator Wayne very much this interim about what we're working on or what's going on in their communities. Our districts are neighbors. To the east, my neighbor is Senator McKinney's district. To the north, my district borders Senator Wayne's district. So the interests of their people matter a lot to me because that's the neighborhood that I grew up into, and I know that that's a lot of the people and interests that I represent as well. I had a tough interim. I really went through the ringer and tried to do everything I could to come back here in January ready to go. And I also think it's true what Senator Linehan said. That point is well taken. She is a stateswoman. She has a lot to be proud of, absolutely, in her career. But the chair himself said less than an hour ago that this motion is debatable. How are you going to have someone go use the rules, as Senator Wayne has done, to make a point, which is allowable under our rules, which is actually sort of part of the theater of politics, honestly? You can have your opinion about that, but that's what we're all doing here, is performing politics. And very rarely do we actually get an outcome that took a lot of hard work that we didn't know was already preordained. But we're all here acting like senators, playing senator. So when Senator Wayne is playing senator, not only that, but actually putting his money where his mouth is, standing up for the interests of his community, talking about the things that are already happening that people aren't acknowledging, then all of a sudden it's against the rules. Then it's not a debatable motion. But the chair just said less than an hour ago, yes, it was. So it can be true that we want to move on and hear the governor. We will. We will. I'm sorry for people who cannot stay to hear the governor because we're going to take more time, but you can watch it later or something. You know, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. This is part of the work we do in this legislature, which is a separate and equal branch of government. And I would like this platform that we have here to be used for people like Senator Wayne and Senator McKinney and anybody in this body who has been slighted by people like the governor. Thank you, Mr. President. And has something to share about that under the umbrella of what is allowable by our rules. It takes statesmanship as well on the part of the governor, on the part of our colleagues here in this body, from community members and financiers, to make sure that we don't get to this point, that we don't leave people out of conversations where then we're kind of put in a position of being defensive, I guess. But the fact that we're having this conversation, people are listening. The balconies are full. Folks are here to listen, so it's a good time to talk. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Hunt. Senator Boslin, you're recognized to speak.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would Senator Wayne yield to a question?
Senator Wayne, will you yield to a question?
Yes.
Senator Wayne, is there something you'd like to say to address the body?
Yes, thank you. Out of respect for the people in the balcony and out of respect for this body, because they are not the ones who I think are fumbling the ball, I will withdraw my motion to overrule the chair.
The motion is withdrawn. We'll continue with the motion. Please state your point of order.
I would like to overrule the chair.
There was no ruling by the chair. Senator Michaela Cavanaugh, you're recognized to speak on the point of order.
I'm sorry?
You're recognized to speak on the point of order.
There was a ruling of the chair in favor of Senator Linehan's point of order, and Senator Wayne made a point of order to overrule that ruling of the chair. And he withdrew that, but we did not vote on it, and I am now making my own motion to overrule the chair.
You are recognized to open on your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Lieutenant Governor. I appreciate Senator Wayne's wanting to allow us to move forward, but I do want us to vote on this because Senator Hunt made an extraordinarily excellent point that in allowing us to even begin the debate, when Senator Frederickson began, the chair essentially acknowledged that it was debatable. So again, I appreciate Senator Linehan's notion to get us moving forward, and I'm not going to belabor this point, but I do believe we should vote on this because the chair, the presiding officer, acknowledged that this was debatable in allowing us to debate it. And then he changed his mind when Senator Linehan made a motion. But that's not really how things work. And truly, colleagues, if we want our rules debate to have integrity, we need to be consistent, and we definitely need to be more consistent than we were last year. So I would like us to vote on this. Thank you, and I don't need to close.
Thank you, Senator Kavanaugh. Senator McKinney, you are recognized to speak.
Thank you, Mr. President. I heard the comment that, we should respect the people in the balcony, which is true. But for the people in the balcony that work for these agencies, I want you to respect my community and communities like mine when you're doing your job. That's what I want you to do. If you work for the Department of Hell and Harm, stop dropping the ball as far as taking care of kids in the child welfare system and do your job. If you work for the Department of Punitive Services, do your job and make sure the men and women coming out are better, rehabilitated. Make sure that the women in York have better water. Make sure that there aren't rats running through the kitchens of these institutions. Make sure there's proper programming. Make sure you're properly staffed. Don't send letters to the AG challenging a law that would help individuals inside and help with our prison overcrowding crisis. Don't do that. If you work for the Department of Exclusion and dropping the ball, act like you care about my community and do your job and uphold the law. Because currently the programs that you're implementing aren't according to the law. The law specifically said anybody that applied is eligible to apply again. You wrote a program that said the opposite. If you give out money, make sure there's outcomes and people ain't trying to make money. Especially nonprofits that have never cared about my community. We stood up and fought for that legislation because of the nonprofit industrial complex is a problem in North and South Omaha. Do your job if you want respect, whatever agency that you work for, especially if you're Black. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator McKinney. Seeing no one else in the queue, Senator Michaela Cavanaugh, you're recognized to close.
This is a real roller coaster, friends. I said I wasn't going to close, now I'm closing. After some conversation with my colleague, Senator Wayne, and I always say I don't know what it means when Senator Wayne talks Senator Michaela Cavanaugh out of doing something, but I think you all should be a little terrified. I withdraw my motion to overrule the chair.
The motion is withdrawn. Members, the committee is to escort the governor to the chamber. Consists of Senators Brewer, Conrad, DeBoer, Eibach, and Von Gilleren. Please escort the governor to the chamber.
Mr. President, your committee now escorting the governor of the great state of Nebraska, Governor Jim Pillen, and First Lady Suzanne Pillen.
President Kelly, Speaker Arch, and members of the 108th Nebraska Legislature, family, friends, and distinguished guests, my fellow Nebraskans. Over the past 11 days, Nebraska's experienced historically brutal winter weather. Sub-zero temperatures, back-to-back blizzards, unrelenting, paralyzing winds that much of our state, stranding hundreds of travelers, preventing farmers and ranchers from getting to their farms and taking care of their livestock, shuttering businesses, challenging our power grid, threatening safety and commerce of thousands. To meet this emergency, Nebraskans helped Nebraskans, just as we do in every single time, countless times before. State troopers, sheriffs, deputies, police officers, our first responders, snow fighters from across the state moved swiftly to rescue those trapped by the storms, clear roads, dig out our communities, and agriculture. These brave men and women represent the best and the backbone of our state. Public servants who rush into the storm and into harm's way to help their neighbors. It's because of them and because of the resilience of the toughest, hardest working people in this land that our state is as strong as ever. Thank you. In the balcony today to my left, we have the Nebraska State Patrol Sergeant Jesse Pfeiffer, Air National Guard Major David Strom, Department of Transportation District Operations Manager and Snow Fighter Tim Koenig. We thank them for their tireless service to Nebraska, and I ask you to join me in recognizing them as representatives of all of Nebraska law enforcement, first responders, National Guard, and highway workers. Could you please stand and be recognized? Thank you. You know, we must never recognize, we must never forget the reality of the hazards that our public servants face every day, keeping us safe and getting us to where we go. This past year, we, Nebraska, lost 2 of our DOT highway workers in the line of duty. Their names, Mark Wells and Dave Schwartz. I ask you all to join me in a moment of silence to honor their memories. Thank you. 1 year ago, time flies, doesn't it? I stood before you in this incredible chamber and pledged to be governor of all Nebraskans and to build relationships with all of their representatives. It's been my honor to do so. We did not agree on everything. God forbid if we did. But we certainly agreed that our kids are our future and we never, ever give up on our kids. United by these principles, together in 23, we accomplished much for Nebraska's future. We took major steps to make sure the state meets its school funding, that promised to every kid in every district by investing in the $1 billion Future Fund to support K-12 education. This included a critical step forward in foundation aid of $1,500 per student and an overdue increase in special education funding. We invested in our workforce by guaranteeing state funding for our dynamic community college system to help increase to trade school degrees. We passed the Opportunity Scholarship Act, which will ensure that needy students from every corner of our state that have a chance at a good educational school that will be the best fit for them. To no one's surprise, the success of this program is obvious, with thousands of Nebraska kids already expressing interest in it. We're joined this morning, several are with us, including scholarship recipients Naya Bell from Omaha and Destiny Curtis from Norfolk. Naya is a junior and Destiny's an 8th grader. Please, if Naya and Destiny could stand, please welcome these students to our chambers this morning. On a side note, we talked in the last hour about all of us being comfortable, being uncomfortable, to grow and get better, and they knew all about it. You guys are awesome. It's good. Tough stuff. Sadly, union bosses and politicians are trying to rip scholarships away from kids like Naya and Destiny. I want everybody to understand that wouldn't be the case. I will fight to protect what we've worked hard to pass last year and call upon this body to do the same. Last year included major achievements in other areas. We took a big first step toward addressing mental health, the challenges throughout our state, with a unanimous creation of certified community behavioral health clinics. 2023 was groundbreaking year for fiscal conservatism as well. We agreed that the state government was spending too much money and taxing its people too much. We tightened our belts. We passed a historical conservative budget with only 2% growth. We agreed that taxing our senior citizens on Social Security is not the Nebraska way, and we ended it. Congratulations. We finally made our income tax codes competitive with our neighbors by reducing income tax rates to 3.99% by 2027. Agriculture is the heart and soul of Nebraska's economy, and we made big investments in its future and infrastructure. We supported value-added agriculture by increasing consumer ethanol access. We created strength in the Nebraska Broadband Office, which will leverage once-in-a-generation resources to ensure rural Nebraska businesses and farms and families can connect to a global economy. Thank you. That's a big deal. And we created the financing tools needed to finally finish our state highway expressway that's been underway for over 40 years in our state. We defended the unborn by restricting abortions beyond 12 weeks. We will continue to embrace life here in Nebraska with the launch of a year-long Culture of Life and initiative. It will provide resources to expecting moms, especially those in crisis who need support more than ever. Much more remains to be done, but this legislature should be proud of its investments in Nebraska's future. I can't thank you and commend you enough for our work together. Thank you. Thank you. We Nebraskans are a people grounded in our values. It's about faith, family, freedom, life, and love. We are a place of rich opportunities and one of the safest places to live in the world to raise our family. We have the gift of belief. It's among our greatest strengths that we believe we can compete with anyone, anywhere in the world. And we can, and we do, everywhere across this state. Blessed with these traits, our economy can weather any storm and emerge stronger. Our economic diversity is the foundation of this resilience. If agriculture slows, our manufacture keeps Nebraskans at work, and vice versa. Our banking sector, much of which is family-owned and deeply familiar with the businesses and the farming operations it serves, it provides the stability and liquidity needed for growth across the state. Because of sound, prudent regulation and a low tax burden, Nebraska has become an insurance capital, attracting strong companies, creating thousands of jobs, and an industry that today ranks in the top 3 in the United States. Yeah, that's incredible. And I might add, we're not too far from just passing Iowa as well. Our public university system has world-class healthcare and biosecurity assets which attract patients and experts from across the globe. We are a sophisticated national security hub, hosting Stratcom at Offutt Air Force Base and providing the nuclear deterrence necessary to secure a troubled world. To support and grow these incredible economic assets, among our chief goals in state government must be to get government out of our way, reduce regulations and bureaucratic hurdles, and empower people and business to thrive. In our administration, we call this operation Clean Out the Closets, in which we try to identify every statutory and regulatory mandate that adds needless costs to healthcare, education, senior care, business of all kinds. We can do much in the executive branch, but we need everyone's help. So we can partner with you to complete this task and stay vigilant against new costly mandates. Together we can get government out of the way and focus on its core functions, right? Focus government on our core functions: safety, education, and infrastructure. This legislative session will be short and fast, but it holds incredible promise and opportunity for our state. There is a tremendous amount of the people's work we must accomplish to make this a better, safer, and stronger place for every Nebraska kid, family, business, and farm. If we are thoughtful, principled, and keep the interest of all Nebraskans before us, I don't have a shadow of a doubt that this has the opportunity to be the most impactful legislative session in our history. First and foremost, the most important economic issue we face is out of control property taxes. Anyone that has been out in the state, I've been everywhere in the last 3 years, by the way, property taxes, it's property taxes, property taxes, and property taxes. This crisis is not new. It's been hurting Nebraska's farmers, ranchers, homeowners, and businesses for most of all of our lifetimes in this chamber. High property taxes hurt every Nebraskan in every single part of our state. It must be fixed now. Property taxes are so out of whack, you don't even need to own property to be adversely affected. They are the most regressive tax government imposes on its people. Fixed income Nebraskans who have lived, worked, and raised their families here now face the prospect of being forced out of their homes due to out-of-control property taxes. That is unacceptable, but we have several proposals for all of us to work together to fix it. Senator Linehan has introduced a hard cap on local spending, which can be overridden only by the vote of the people. This measure is critical, as only a hard cap will force our local governments to finally curb spending. Senator Dover has a bill that will repurpose existing credits so all property taxpayers can benefit from this relief, not just those with the best accountants. His bill will also add $1 billion in new property tax credits. Critical of all of these credits will be front-loaded so that property taxpayers will see them directly under property tax statements instead of hanging to go through an onerous process to claim them in their income taxes months later. Through hard work, collaboration, and setting politics aside, we must find the revenue to support this top property tax relief. Senators Von Gerler, Kauth, Meyer, Merman, Albright, and Linehan have offered several bills to close tax loopholes created by special interests at the expense of the middle class. We have examined over 500 agency cash funds, and we will transfer $274 million from those to support property tax relief. And just in case you're wondering, after that transfer, in those 500 cash agency accounts, we still have $2.49 billion, that's with a B, billion dollars in those cash funds. And that's not even counting the $1.25 billion in our general and cash reserve fund. So add that up. It is not the job of government to hoard cash, and we must give it back to the people. We must lower our overall tax burden, widen our tax base, and end the era of special tax breaks. Tax policy must benefit our state as a whole, not whoever has the best lobbyist. With these changes, Nebraska property tax bill will be cut by 40% this year. Thank you. I know, I have 100% confidence that there is the will, the good faith, and the knowledge and the ability in this chamber to solve it. And I pledge to work with all of you as long as it takes to get this done. Nebraska government remains too big at every level. Since my inauguration, we have been relentless in searching for efficiencies, cutting costs, ending bloating contracts, and working to meet the performance improvement targets this legislature set out before us last year. We must do more, including by structurally reducing the excessive number of boards and commissions that have been built up in Nebraska government over the years. At last count, we have over 200 state boards and commissions, many of which are redundant or oversee activities that can be eliminated. Senator Brewer has introduced a measure that would eliminate 48, about 20% of our boards and commissions. It's a start. I urge the legislature to make the most of this opportunity to shrink unnecessary government. For over a century, Nebraska's been the land of opportunity for newcomers. For years, we have used income tax abatement as our main tool to incentivize companies to come to Nebraska. This has yielded many success stories and thousands of good, well-paying careers for hardworking Nebraskans. But going forward, we must make sure we are not giving our topsoil away by giving incentives to foreign companies who view Nebraska merely as a conduit for cheap electricity, free water, and cheap labor. We must align our economic incentives to strengthen not only value adding new businesses, but also Nebraska-owned, Nebraska-led businesses which have been building our economy for generations. That is why I'm working with Senator Linehan to reform our current incentive package to make Nebraska's incentives competitive in the manufacturing sector for Nebraska-grown companies. While we want to create and incentivize great careers in Nebraska, we must focus more on recruiting people to the good life. We must retool our incentives to be people-focused. One priority brought by Senator Brewer will be strengthening the ranks of our great Nebraska National Guard by exempting its members from state income tax. While significant, this is the least we can do to honor them for all they do for our state and our nation. Thank you, Colonel Brewer. Thank you for your own service and your commitment to the armed services. Thank you, Colonel Brewer. We will incentivize new Nebraskans to join our private workforce too. Senator Ballard has introduced an innovative bill that will give Nebraska businesses credit for bringing new residents to our state. Passing this bill will be another investment into our workforce. But we must recognize that investing in the 21st century workforce is far different than what we've ever done before. No longer can we focus on tax breaks on companies that are takers, not givers, and do not share our values. With input from our working group that focused on workforce development over the past 6 months, We've come forward with proposals in childcare, early childhood education, housing, and general education. I've partnered with Senator Bostar in legislation to create a micro-center network. This will allow local communities and businesses to get creative with existing space and resources to meet their childcare needs. To build the housing we need for our workforce, we should invest an additional $25 million into the World Workforce Housing Fund. Thank you. All across rural Nebraska, the demand for workforce housing is so great that the homes are sold before the doors are even hung. But it's just not a rural issue. Housing affordability and availability is an incredible issue in our metropolitan communities as well. Part of the shared problem is local over-regulation of affordable housing. That's why I'm partnering with Senator Lowe on lowering the regulatory burden for affordable housing. A recent UNO study showed that regulation as a component of construction is over $40,000 higher here in Nebraska than the national average. Simply makes no sense and unacceptable. We must cut the red tape out and make our homes more affordable in Nebraska. I'm partnering with Senator Waltz to break down the barriers for potential teachers to enter the workforce. I ask this question all the time. I'd like us all to think about it. Who are the top 3 people that impacted your life the most? I guarantee when we take the time to think about it, all 49 of us will answer one of the 3 is a teacher or a coach. And I tell you what, if someone would have told me that, or I would have known and understood that impact, I would have been a coach. It is one of society's most important professions impacting our young people. That is why we must allow for reciprocity of teachers coming from another state and simplify how to apply for and receive teaching certificates. Teaching shortage is a crisis. That way more Nebraskans can easily choose this honorable profession. Finally, I'm working with Senator Linehan to change our incentive credits to direct them toward housing, childcare, and early childhood education for Nebraska. Outside the building, the state government must do more collectively to allow our institutions of higher education to meet the workforce needs of tomorrow. I look forward to partnering with our University of Nebraska, our state college system, and community college system to launch the One Nebraska initiative. The goal will be to eliminate endless duplication and inefficient competition between our state-funded schools, along with finally harmonizing and strengthening our Regents Scholarship Program. We will make sure that our higher education keeps our best and brightest here and trains them to lead Nebraska into the future. These efforts will stop the brain drain, will welcome new Nebraskans, and will help businesses, ranchers, and farmers thrive. And speaking of attracting people to Nebraska, it's really, really tough to do with this slogan that says, Nebraska, not for everyone. Are you kidding me? We must bring our economic development, our people recruitment, and our tourism promotion work back under the same leadership so that they can be better coordinated and run at less administrative expense to the taxpayers. Senator McDonald has a carryover bill from last session that would correct a decade-old mistake of separating tourism from economic development. I urge you to pass this bill so we can again tell the world the good life is here in Nebraska for everyone. Nebraska, has become a mecca for women's athletics, with our women's sports drawing tremendous inspiration and excitement from all over the world. Our female athletes are superstars. Supporting our women athletes takes more than just buying tickets and watching games. It also means protecting them in the arena and in the locker room. Simply put, I don't want my granddaughter to bear the fundamental unfairness of competing against a boy. And I certainly don't want her to suffer the indignity of showering next to a boy. That goes both ways. Our boys shouldn't be sharing showers with girls. This is common sense stuff that the overwhelming majority of Nebraskans support. Senator Cal's Sports and Spaces Act, also carried over from last year, reflects simple Nebraska common sense. I believe in sports, I believe in women's sports, and I believe in protecting women athletes, and I urge you to pass LB 575. We have also included in our budget proposal funding that will enable us to take advantage of once-in-a-lifetime federal resources designed to develop the new bioeconomy here in Nebraska. This diverse area of economic activity encompasses everything from sustainable aviation fuel to plastics to amino acids, acrylics, the potential of making nylon from corn. All of this can happen in Nebraska. Nebraska is uniquely well equipped to be the leader in this new economy. We are blessed with the constantly renewed water resources that are not only a natural buffer against drought, but also enable us to grow crops more sustainably than anywhere else, literally in the world. We already produce the building blocks of this new bioeconomy. This will provide more value for our agricultural products, more research and innovation, and more wealth right here in Nebraska. We are the envy of the nation when it comes to our people, our safety, our energy independence, and our food security. Center to it all is our pot of gold, the Ogallala Aquifer, one of the few truly sustainable aquifers in the Western Hemisphere. Our water is the key to our value-added agriculture, the ability to raise more crops per acre while using less energy. Looking ahead, even beyond this session, it is critical that we strengthen our water laws to guarantee that this priceless resource is not diverted to solve water management failures in other parts of the country. We must invest to incentivize ag producers to use less water to raise more. Better measurement tools, more use of technology, and more innovation will enable us to use less water while irrigating more crops right here in Nebraska. With our water being the envy of the world, we cannot allow adversarial foreign interests the ability to take it. That is why I'm partnering with Senator DeKay to modernize Nebraska laws on land ownership to prohibit purchase by adversaries. This bill would tighten up those restrictions and provide a clear directive for enforcement. Additionally, this bill rescinds exemptions for foreign ownership, such as foreign oil, gas, and mineral development in the state. The world is not the same as it was in the 50s. That's the last time these laws have been reviewed. It is imperative to keep enemies in our country from owning land in our state, especially near sensitive military installations. I am also partnering with Senator Bostar to ban enemies like China, North Korea, and Iran from bidding on any public contracts that deal with security-related items like IT, communication networks, and infrastructure. As I close, I want to share with you an incredibly profound moment in my first year as your governor. Early last year, I was privileged to be the first governor to join a conference of Nebraska's tribal leaders in South Sioux City. While there, one of the tribal leaders shared with me what he had learned from his grandfather. His grandfather taught him that whenever community comes together, wherever we're working, making important decisions for the people's future, that they are guided by their actions, that they have an impact for a long time. And I said, yeah, I get it. And he said, no, Mr. Governor, you don't get it. My grandfather taught us 7 generations. I found that incredibly powerful, and it impacted me every day since. It's come to be my guide for public service. I hope that it may impact you as we work, that we start thinking about 7 generations. And if you think about it, it's been roughly 7 generations since Nebraska was founded. Just think, some in this room has forefathers that were here. Just think of our forefathers, think of our pioneers who poured their blood, sweat, and tears into this land, not only for themselves, but for their kids and grandkids, and for generations to come. Their hard work, their grit, sacrifice, and optimism is totally reflected on who we are today. So as we do the people's business in the days and weeks and months ahead, we should never forget that we are working for the future of generations of Nebraskans so that they may inherit the same safe, strong, and prosperous Nebraska that we enjoy today. If we look beyond localized interests and set politics aside and instead put the best interest of Nebraska as our sole guiding principle, I have no shadow of a doubt that we can win for agriculture, for business, for our taxpayers, for our kids, and for our future. Together we can. And then, speaking of an impact for 7 generations, thank you to this body for partnering past session to launch a $5 million investment into mentoring organizations across the state. Because not every kid needs a mentor, every kid deserves one. And the lifetime benefits of mentoring cannot be overstated. And that's why I'm really honored to be joined today by one that I mentored me. Just an extraordinary public servant of Nebraska, Coach Osborne. Coach has been an incredible leader in creating mentoring opportunities for thousands of kids, and he's just an incredible inspiration to all of us. Will you please join me in recognizing Coach and everything he's done for Nebraska? A couple of us even remember him being a pretty darn good football coach, too. Well, let me finish up by saying thank you for your friendship and your partnership in the service of the people we collectively represent. It goes without saying, none of us here could answer this call to service without the support of our families. Personal sacrifice that everybody makes in this chamber's off the charts. And it couldn't take place without the support of our families. I'm incredibly grateful for mine and for the support of First Lady Suzanne. Thank you, dear. and I have my #1 cheerleader, my granddaughter Hallie, a 5th grader here. Hallie, you stand up and just give everybody a wave, would you? And so thanks to you, and thanks to all your families, because together we can make an incredible difference of public service to Nebraska. And let me just finish by what an incredible privilege it is to partner and work with you. And I look forward to the days ahead. God bless you, and God bless the incredible, incredible state of Nebraska. Thank you for the time today.
Committee, please escort the governor from the chamber.
Make sure he doesn't get away.
embargoing everything from yesterday. Really appreciate that. So, Andrew. You know, I believe in the separation of powers, and this governor will never, ever, ever tell anybody in the legislature how to run their legislature. So, we've worked very, very hard, and I'm 100% supportive and been a part of the process with Department of Economic Development. We're very, that's been a team effort involving lots of folks, and but whenever you do things that you don't please 100% of everybody, I feel great about the process and the initiatives that went forward and what will be going forward in the weeks ahead. We've worked incredibly hard for Omaha. When we walked into a set of circumstances where $400 million of ARPA funds were appropriated and not any work had been done, so 2 years was lost. A lot of things had to take place. We flipped ARPA funding and then got to work on appropriating the funds for North Omaha and South Omaha, and we're very proud of the work our team's done. Andrew?
Senator Wayne had said, though, that these projects had been applied for and that your administration was dragging their feet on approving some of these. How do you respond to Senator Wayne?
Everybody has different perspectives. Again, we've walked in a situation that had not been a lot stacked up. And we've worked tirelessly, and, we feel good about where we're at. Yes. Well, whenever there's economic development that takes place and growth, there is going to be some disruptions, and that's that is a process that goes on in every community across the state and every community in the country as you have growth and create new jobs. Really, really important that this park is developed so that there can be great careers and jobs created for North Omaha. And so there'll be a few families that will have sacrifices, no question. Yes. Yeah, I think that the best way, the question was in regard to what the culture of life and love initiative is, and it's simply the goal is to make sure that we communicate more. There's, just calling it the way it is, for 52 years there's been a lot of people praying, but we've been all quiet. We have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, talking about what we believe in, and talking about how grand it is to help young women choose life and love, and that they have support and all their needs will be met when they choose life and love. And so it's going to be really a focus on better communication and better embracing and rallying all of the different organizations across the state so that we are more collaborative. Aaron?
You emphasized property tax change. Part of that has been talk of a sales tax. Obviously, you faced some pushback from even your predecessor on the sales tax plan. What do you think of some of those criticisms of raising the sales tax to offset property tax?
Aaron's question on property taxes, criticisms, honestly, none of that is unexpected, because this is a plan that a lot of people said can't ever be done for the last 60 years. Obviously, we believe 100% different. And there's been, if you really study what's taken place in the impact renewable fuels policy had on the state of Nebraska, there's no place in the world that had the beneficiary impact on the entire Nebraska economy. It started by creating 5 billion bushels of new corn demand with 15 billion gallons of ethanol. The state of Nebraska started turning marginal land that could only take care of one mama cow to 20 acres, turned that land into 220 bushel corn. That created incredible wealth across the state. Our cattle feeding industry, we are now #1 in the United States. It increased by 40%. We're the #1 processor of cattle. Ethanol industry, we're the #2 processor. Tons of corn no longer goes down the river, and our vision will be that none go down. But the point simply is that those are the things that created an extraordinary tax shift that took place. After the start of renewable fuels policy, we went through the Obama recession. Nebraska didn't blink because of how strong our agriculture and our manufacturing. And so didn't blink, and we had a deflationary period of time for almost 10 years. But yet, city, county, and state government was spending at a rate of 5% plus. And so we had an incredible tax shift, and then it was politically favored. We did sales tax exemptions. So we had an incredible tax shift that took place in the last 20 years, and it's just simply time we have to fix it. We can't, there's nobody that's going to shrink government like we are and cut spending like we are, but we can't cut spending our way out of saving Nebraska's fixed income earners from losing their homes that they've worked their entire life to pay for. So it's going to take a broadening of our tax base, and it's going to take a lot of conversations. And when everybody comes to it, the one thing we all agree on, we've got to cut our property taxes to $3 billion. And you know, there's a number of things. We need more revenue for roads. There's extraordinary. I mean, right? We all agree. Government's 3 highest callings is safety, education, and infrastructure. We're going through extraordinary inflationary pressures on roads. So you know, we've got to solve the problem. But the highest problem is our property tax. It's the most regressive form of taxation there is, and we have to fix it. So you know, there's a lot of conversations that go on. I have confidence we'll partner with everybody across, with everybody's solutions and get there. Not a shadow of a doubt, yes. Some sort of, I didn't hear our solution to it will simply be we've got to shift the tax base. We have to broaden sources. You know, everything's on the table. We ranked today number 42 out of 50 states. 42 out of 50 states in how we tax tobacco. You know, I certainly propose that we don't necessarily need to get in the top 10, but we can add $2. We charge 64 cents. If we charge $2.64, that ranks us number 14 in the country on taxing cigarettes. I'm about health care. I'm about improving health care in Nebraska. So I'm a big advocate of taxing tobacco. It will raise $120, $130 million more for property tax relief, all those kinds of opportunities. What we're not about is talking about taxing anything anybody needs that are on fixed income, taxing Nebraskans on anything that we need. We're talking about looking at all resources on things we don't need. Fancy word is discretionary. The word all of us Nebraskans understand is stuff we don't need. Then, when I'm on fixed income, I'm not regressively taxed out of my house. I can decide if I want to pay that tax on something I buy or not, because I don't need it. Anything in the grocery store related to food's off the table. Anything that makes any manufacturer, farmer, business less competitive with our neighbors is off the table. Anything else is open for conversation. Yes.
You said that property taxes have gotten so out of whack that you don't even need to own property.
Yeah.
To expand.
Yeah, exactly. Last week on our monthly radio call-in show, I had a person call who's a renter. And he said, you know, I pay so much for my property taxes, or I pay so much for my rent. And he said, you know, the thing about it is if property taxes get cut, my rent's not going to go down. I said, well, in agriculture, how it works is if rent changes depending upon the circumstances. But I said, the one thing I think we can agree on, if we don't put hard cap and stop out of control spending and property taxes keep going up, we can certainly agree your rent's going to go up. Not without a shadow of a doubt. We can all agree on that. Nebraska is the best place in the world to live, and we're empathetic, and I would say that we cut property taxes by 40%. Owners of assets, when they see that they could decrease rent $50 a month, I'm obviously going to be in the stump saying, hey, all of you, that it's important that we share that with all Nebraskans, because property taxes are so out of whack, it affects every one of us. You don't have to own property to be adversely affected. Yes.
Have you said at any point, or can you say now, where Nebraska ranks as far as property taxes go?
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry. The question was, do I know where the state of Nebraska ranks on property taxes? Yeah, unfortunately, we're in the top 10. We rank number 7 today. And when you think about the other gigantic issue in the state of Nebraska, we need people. You know, I've been across this state the last 3 years countless times, and let me tell you, the innovation, the entrepreneurship, the risk-taking, and the incredible careers created across the state's incredible. Incredible. And, oh no, by the way, the wealth. And as I say, nobody knows it because we don't brag. But the point simply is that we have an incredible opportunity for people to come here because there's great careers. So if you're a person contemplating moving back here, what are the things that are really, really easy access? It's what's our income tax. It's what's our property tax. Talk to people. It's simple. They look at their property tax and they go, you know, this doesn't make sense. Or, gal, I got to go back and I've got to make another $500 a month just to cover that. So those are really hurting our workforce development. It's a huge issue. Number one issue is number one, we're going to look every Nebraskan in the face and assure them that we're going to pass legislation this session so that when valuation of their home goes up, they will not pay another dime in property taxes. There is not anyone alive who does not want the value of their home to go up. It's not a valuation problem, it's a spending problem, and that's why a hard cap for all local municipalities and county government has to happen. We have to stimulate fiscal conservatism across the state. We're providing the leadership how we're running state government, and we're hoping to have an impact on county and city government. Aaron?
Governor, you've talked a lot about local control when you were campaigning. How does a cap on local government square with the idea of local control?
Yeah, well, I think number one, there's local control is important, that we can locally provide the direction and how we want to run things, but there's times when we have to look in the mirror and say when something's not working. I will be number one guilty. Nebraska Nice worked too hard, and I never called anybody if I disagreed with how money was spent at the county. I didn't call anybody if I was disagreed with all the curves in our new high school and spending 20% more on building a building that we could have saved $10 million. I didn't call anybody. And so I'm guilty, and that's about 99.9% of Nebraska. That's why we need to take action at the state level. Andrew.
Governor, on that, the money that you're taking from the cash funds from
Yes.
different agencies, can you kind of explain that? Where is some of that money coming from? What's the big pools of money that you're taking from?
Yeah. So Andrew's question had to do with the roughly $75 million that we've swept out of the 500 cash accounts. So Andrew, there's so many cash accounts. I can't keep the names all in my head, but they're basically in every single state agency. And Lee is here. We could get you exact, but we've worked with our cabinet members. This is not a dictatorship. We've worked with our team, and we've said, gee whiz, we have 18 months of cash here. That you don't need that kind of cash sitting to operate this. This makes no sense. And so this was a very, very conservative approach. And like I said, the total number was like $2,750 million, and we swept $250 million out to get it down to $2.5 billion. That is, a lot of money left, and that's on top of, just so everybody understands, that's on top of the $1.25 billion of total general and cash reserve funds. So those are monies that just aren't needed to efficiently run government. They're excess bloated money.
But if you're taking that money, I'm assuming it's one-time money, and how can this be sustainable for long-term property tax relief?
Yeah, well, the point is it's not utilized for long-term property tax relief. It would be utilized for helping get it done and started on the front side. So that's what that money would be used for. Andrew? Yeah, thank you. Andrew's question was if I could talk about One Nebraska initiative. So One Nebraska is really simple, common sense, straightforward. I served for 10 years on the University of Nebraska Board of Regents. I think I have a pretty good idea of the strengths and the weaknesses. And, I'm 100% focused on the right fit for kids. I don't care if it's in K-12 or higher education. We have to be focused on the kids and the right fit for kids. It's absurd that we have university, state-funded higher education competing against kids and competing them to get them to come to our schools. We want to work together and have the best focus for the best outcome for the kid. There are kids that should not be going to college, that we should be saying, look, your scores, this, that, here are some careers that you should consider instead of saying, okay, all I'm worried about is my enrollment plan at my university. If there's one thing that drives me crazy is when we have universities brag about their enrollment. We're going to start bragging about how many kids graduate. That's what workforce development is. Businesses in Nebraska don't care about what the heck their enrollment is. We care about graduates. We care about skill set development so we can grow our business and grow our economy, and that's what One Nebraska is going to be about. What will it do? Yeah, we're going to work really hard on having understanding amongst our university chancellors and presidents, amongst our state colleges and amongst our community colleges to be focused so that we're utilizing Nebraska resources to the best possible. As your governor, I'm going to work my tail off to influence so that we utilize our resources in the most efficient and effective way, with the focus being best on our kids, and stop this competition, break the barriers down so that chancellors are working together, not against each other. You know, silos have been out of business in agriculture for 40 years. It's probably time to get rid of silos in higher education too. Andrew.
Going back to North Omaha, what can you tell those North Omaha community members and residents on how you will, I guess, proceed forward with, you know, I guess, development in that area?
Yeah, well, I think that the easiest way when you talk about creating opportunity so that you have business growth is kind of like building a new neighborhood. You can talk about building houses till the cows come home, but if you don't have streets in and infrastructure, you don't build any houses. And so business development in the park's pretty much the same. It's not that complicated. You got to have a place close by so that more business can grow. The Omaha's thriving and banging, right? We talked about it. The federal government has a report, a county report that last month showed Douglas County, Omaha, the #1 economy in the United States for communities 500,000 and more. They're landlocked, and this is precious opportunity created. The other thing that's, you know, we got to keep bragging. We've got extraordinary investment taking place in the Omaha airport. It's going to be over $1 billion of investment taking place, construction over the 5 years. Incredible opportunities for all the folks in North Omaha for great work ahead. So all of this just keeps investing, and then the investment for kids with the youth park of $35 million. Again, sports are a lifeblood and a way to draw people, but more importantly for the kids in the community. So those are great investments for all the members of North Omaha and Northeast Omaha. Aaron? You know, I've had countless meetings. I've had countless interactions with Senator Wayne and Senator McKinney. Haven't talked to them since I've been back. I've been out a lot and in and out, but you know, my modus operandi is being 100% positive with any senator, and it's okay that God forbid we'd agree on everything. It's not going to affect my viewpoint one iota. I say I have not talked to him since the session has begun. Yep. Yes. Well, one of the fascinating experiences being your governor is how many boards that you have. Your responsibility is to appoint people, and just a hardcore reality would be there are so many boards that have not had people appointed for years. So that's what I've walked into. And so I've said to myself, well, if people haven't taken the time to appoint people, what's going on here? And so there's, it's every step of the way. There was somebody's idea at one time. I'm not criticizing it, but the fact of the matter is, if an idea is not sustainable long term, it should be done away with. And those are the commissions that, you know, somebody had an idea that should happen, and there's really no one willing to serve. There's not people willing to put energy into it. So why should we as Nebraska taxpayers do it? It makes no sense. Yes. well, you know, when you know, I certainly need to look in the mirror and maybe I can communicate more effectively. You know, I don't email, I don't text. I text for, you know, texting when it's anything other than a logistics, I don't do. So yeah, I text to say, hey, can you meet me at, instead of somebody's on the session floor and say, hey, could you meet me at 5:15 to talk? Yeah, so if that's not transparent, I'm guilty. No, that's good, thank you. Yes. I do not. Lee would have a number, but honestly, it's, you know, it's just a fundamental piece of our objective as your governor is to shrink government and not be doing unnecessary things. I'm a believer that we, the people in Nebraska, can solve most of our problems and come together and make things happen. And so, you know, again, when boards and commissions haven't been filled for years or operating with, you know, a skeleton crew, you know, those are just common sense business things that say, you know, there's probably not much purpose for them. Okay, well, thank you all very, very much for being out this morning. And again, I mentioned it yesterday, but I've appreciated the opportunity to get to know all of you and build a relationship and all the work you do for Nebraska. So thank you. Have a great rest of the day. Thank you.